So when I raise my hand, that's a signal for you also to, one, guess, any guesses? What you're going to do? Yes, you're going to stop talking, but also I want you to raise your hand as well. Because if you raise your hand, then what's everyone else in your group going to
Raise
do?
their hand.
To raise their hand and also to what?
Listen.
Stop talking so we can have a class discussion, right? So remember with that 1 to 100 task, we worked through it as a group. Then I had you debrief it, right? Talk through it. Then you tried it one more time. And then after you tried it one more time, then we have a whole class discussion. Is that detail? Okay. So in order to have those small group conversations, but then for us to also have the whole class conversation, I'm going to raise my hand. That's a signal for you to raise your hand and stop talking so we can get back together. Okay, so I see a couple of answers up here that are very accurate. Anyone remember how we defined it now?
The study of patterns and relationships.
Anyone remember us talking about math as the study of patterns and relationships? Yes, hopefully. And so that was the very first way that we defined mathematics, right? So remember, I had y'all define it and talk about it. But remember, all math is, at its core, is the study of patterns and relationships. And because of that, math doesn't have to be as scary because you're just exploring and making sense. Now, you'll have to also study to make those ideas stick. You'll have to study and practice to make sure you can apply the principles. But all of the mathematical rules and ideas that we are going to study is just some kind of pattern or relationship. And within those patterns and relationships, what are the things that mathematicians do? There are 3 different things that mathematicians do with patterns and relationships. They first notice them, right? Aaliyah, do you remember the next one? Say again. Not quite define. There was another D word that we used, though.
Determine.
Not determine. Not saying that you're wrong. That's just not the word we used. Not quite decipher. You're talking about them, so you're going to...
Discuss.
Yes, discuss. Describe. That was the other word, right? So you have to notice a pattern or relationship, but you can't just notice it. You got to talk about it, so you got to describe it, which is why mathematical language is so important. Does anyone remember the third step after describing? That's part of the describe, I would say. Generalize. There we go, right? Remember, we don't want to just take one single principle and memorize it and that's it, right? We want to be able to generalize it. We want to make it applicable to lots of different mathematics. Clay, do I need to move the camera so you're less distracted?
No, I'm not that distracted.
Okay, cool. Just making sure. So don't forget, at the core, right, the way that math becomes less scary is that it is just a set of patterns and relationships. And our job is to go find those patterns and relationships. And when we do that, we're going to notice, we're going to describe, and we're going to generalize the patterns and relationships, which is why it's important that we practice or we work on our mathematical language. So keep that in mind. All right. So here's our agenda for the day. So 2 things. Entering class, I'm going to ask you to do 2 different things, right? Obviously, you grab your name cards, you get those out, you get your calculators. But even before you do any of that, Clay, what are we going to do that you already mentioned earlier? There we go. Put our phones up. So there we go. So I'm going to tell you your cell phone pocket number in just a second. But before even then, as you're walking in the door, I'm going to ask you to do something. First, I'm almost there with every name, right? I have roughly 90 names to learn, and so I think for this class I'm pretty darn close. Like looking around, I will say I do remember everybody's name in your group. Now, I will point that out. It's easier to remember a name when someone's sitting in the same desk as that they've always sat in. So I may not perfectly remember the name as you're walking in the door, but my goal is to greet every single one of you as you walk into class by name, right? But I'm also, and I'm going to do this after lunch because I want you to come into class the right way, but what I'm going to ask you to do as you walk into class, I'm going to say, hey, and I guess after lunch, good afternoon, Bree, and I'm going to ask Bree to respond this way. I am capable. I know it sounds goofy, right? But good morning, Bree, or good afternoon, Bree.
Say it.
Oh, I am capable.
There we go, right? So then I'll say, okay, good afternoon, Clay, and how's he going to respond?
I am capable.
There we go, okay. And so then I'll go, good afternoon, Aaliyah, and how are you going to respond? I'm capable. I know it sounds goofy, but here's the thing I want you to understand. I am doing this because I want you to come in with the right attitude of today is a good day to learn and today is a good day to be successful. That I am capable of finding mathematical success in Mr. Kinney's room. And so I want you to come in with that attitude every single day. I'm going to try to come in as positive and upbeat. I'm not going to do it perfectly every day, but I'm going to try to do that. But it's also going to help you if you come in with that attitude. And so I want you to give yourself that positive mindset, that positive message before you walk into class every single day. And I think that that will be helpful if you consistently remind yourself you are in fact capable. That's what I want you to tell yourself every single day. So I'm going to greet you by name, and when I greet you by name, I want you to respond with I am capable. Now, as you're also walking into class, we now need to find out what our cell phone pocket numbers are. So go ahead and get your cell phone out because we're about to put it up. So Zany, you will be pocket number 1. Jaden, your pocket number 2. Cannon, pocket number 3. And you can go ahead and put them over there when I call your name. What did I say? I haven't said Aiden yet, have I? Aiden, pocket number 4. Addison, pocket number 5. Kennedy, pocket number 6. EK, pocket number 7. Maddox, pocket number 8. Evan, pocket number 9. Cole, pocket number 10. Mackenzie, pocket number 11. Amari, pocket number 12. Anna Grace, 13. Aaliyah, 14. James, 15. Logan, 16. Chelsea, is Chelsea here today? She's not here, is she? Chelsea, be 17. Help me remember to remind her. Clay, 18. Marlon, 19. Tristan, 20. Amari, you were 12. Tristan, 20. Alexandria, 21. Grace Ann, 22. Bree, 23. Deja, man, I can't even read my own handwriting. Deja, 24. Alexis, 25. And Jordan, 26. Kennedy, 6.
It was 17. This was more.
Try you feel that way. Alexis, do you need your number? Alexis, 25.
Who's beside me?
I don't know.
Chelsea.
Oh, you're talking about 17? Yeah, Chelsea's not here today, so. Okay, again, guys, and I will say this. This one's going to be on you. It's going to be your decision. Or, it's not your decision. I'm going to be watching for it. What is the second most distracting thing besides your cell phone in the classroom? On the calculator?
Your iPad.
You don't have an iPad yet.
Distractions.
How about your smartwatches? Most of y'all basically use a smartwatch like a phone. I know. But the reason why I bring this up is for now I will let you keep your smartwatch or smartwatches. If I notice that you start becoming a distraction, we will put them up with the cell phones. So be aware of that, right? Don't let them be a distraction. I do have my smartwatch, but I will never respond in the middle of class. I might see what is being sent to me because it is a possibility of an emergency or something like that. But I'm never going to respond unless it is an actual emergency, right? But that's how we're going to enter class, right? So I greet you by name to the best of my ability. If I screw things up, just remember I have 90 kids and I'm trying my best to learn, and I will get that for sure by the end of class or by the end of the week. But then you're going to respond with I am capable, and I want you to hold on to that message. All right, from there, we're going to do a quick reminder of active collaboration scores. Remember, you have the rubric in your notebook already, but these aren't just grades. These are actual scores to give you feedback on how well you're actively collaborating, which is something that directly impacts your learning, right? And so I will be sharing with you and your parents, just you two, a Google Sheet that I've already created where I'm going to record active collaboration scores, right? So I've already scored the students in my first block today. I will be putting those scores in this afternoon/evening, and hopefully over the next couple of days I will share those with you and your parents so that you can see what I'm seeing, right? Because I'll only put in a weekly grade, into Power Schools, but you can see the individual days as well. But we'll look at what the scores mean again in a second. And then we'll get into the first lesson of the year for Algebra 2. It's all about statistics. And you're going to learn what a statistical question is and start looking at the idea of what makes a sample representative of a population. And that's something you desperately want, otherwise the data is useless. Okay, as a quick reminder, non-negotiables, participation is not optional. We show up and we work. I know that's not our most exciting thing in the world. And I even had some students respond and say, on the 3-2-1 that y'all did last Friday, one of the 2 questions for a lot of students was, are we ever going to do anything fun? Well, I mean, it depends on you to a certain degree. I think everything we do in the class is fun because I just love math. But it's all about your attitude and how you approach it. Like for me, the 1 to 100 task I thought was a fun little way to engage in mathematical thinking. I know at first y'all freaked out about the question. Trying to get you to prove why the sum of 2 prime numbers will never be prime. But I felt like a lot of us got engaged and we enjoyed the puzzle. So it's not going to be the same level of entertainment as Netflix because I would never be that entertaining, right? I'm just not that funny. And math is not that interesting to you. But we can have fun by exploring and developing and learning, okay? So we show up and we work to grow and learn. Obviously, cell phones go over in the cell phone caddy. So as a reminder, grading policy, active collaboration scores are going to be roughly 20% of your overall grade in my class. That's a good chunk of points, right? But more importantly, it's not just a grade, I've already mentioned it, it's feedback to you about how well you're collaborating and learning. The person who talks the most learns the most. Now, that does mean you need to be respectful of those around you. You can't dominate the conversation, but you need to be actively engaged in the conversation, in your small groups and in the whole class, right? So keep that in mind for the active collaboration. So don't forget, you don't want to be here. 0, 1s, and 2s, basically that means that you're not working in class and not trying to do the work to varying levels, right? In order to get just to a 3 developing, that really just means that you are completing the assignments, working mostly on your own, but you're completing the assignments in class and in whole class discussions. You're either taking notes, actively sharing thoughts, or asking questions. You just have to do one of those 3. Not a high barrier to get to a 3. Okay? But to get to the 3.5s and up, what do you have to start doing?
Talking or...
You gotta talk. Plainly put, I know it's uncomfortable for some of us, but 1, I need you to understand that being wrong is not a bad thing. Being wrong is great because it's when we're wrong that we get to grow and learn. And on top of that, this ability to talk in groups, both small groups and big groups, is a skill that you need for the rest of your life. So I'm trying to help you develop that skill, but also I need you to understand that the research supports that idea that when you talk more, you're going to learn more. So I need you talking and learning and growing. Now, I will point out, what score do you need to average in order to earn 100 for the week? You just need a 4. You don't need to be at an advanced. But I did already have only one student, I think, earn a 5 in first block. I had several 4.5s. But remember, you have to truly be a leader within your small group. That means that you're not just talking. That means that you're also asking others questions in your group, trying to get everybody to engage to get to that 5 level. But it also means during the whole class discussions, you're not just sharing your thoughts, but you're also asking questions of other people's thoughts, and you're taking notes, right? You gotta do all 3 of those things. But the way that this breaks down, you can have a day with a 3, 2 days with a 4, and 2 days with a 5, and you still actually have over 100. You would have a 21 out of 20 for that week, right? So we want to be aware, I just need you to talk, and I need you to actively collaborate. And if I were you, I would actually look at this rubric on your off time when you're outside of class to remind yourself of, these are the things that I need to be doing in Mr. Kitty's class to be successful. Questions, comments, or concerns before I continue? Cool. All right. So here's our objectives, right? One of the things to always keep in mind is, oh, by the way, you need your textbook out. You'll want it out, yeah, wait a second, we need to get the book out. Volume 2, yep, that's what you want today. And I want you to just open up into the middle of the textbook roughly. You don't need to worry about which page right now, just open up to the middle. Go to the back where there's already open books. And grab one of those. Actually, hold on.
Dude.
Here, I actually have,
Are you serious?
I made copies before I knew that I was going to have you already have your books. Okay. So again, volume 2, for those of y'all who are just taking out off the shrink wrap, don't forget, I would not carry the whole thing around. Only bring volume 2 with you and leave volume 1 at home. But okay, open up the textbook to roughly somewhere in the middle. And then I want you to look in the bottom right-hand corner. What's the page number?
M441.
M441, M459.
Wow.
Okay? M411. So I need you to hear me on this. Most books are just numbered from 1 to whatever, right? The way that this book works is that there are 5 modules within the textbook, and so M4 identifies what module you're looking at. Modules 3 through 5 are in the volume 2. Modules 1 through 2 are in the volume 1, okay? And so module 4, module 5, whatever, and then the page number within that module. What we are doing is actually starting with module 5. So go to M5-63.
I flipped right to it.
Nice. So what is this module all about?
Relating data and decisions.
Right? So I want you to understand, and I've mentioned this already a couple times, polynomial functions, they're fantastic. Great patterns and relationships there. Trigonometric functions, same deal. Logarithms and exponentials, because of my background in engineering, they're some of my favorites. However, most of those functions you will not need in your everyday life. Critical thinking associated with it, 100% you'll need. But data will be all around you for your entire life. Making decisions based on that data is actually a very important skill. And so we're starting with this idea of data and decisions based on that data for sure. And so pay attention to that. This is a really good unit. With the start of this, we're actually starting with an objective, right, that does not match with anything in the Algebra 2 textbook, because this idea of a statistical versus non-statistical question comes up in 7th or 8th grade. But unfortunately, most math teachers just skip it. We'll talk more about what statistics is, but it's not a true pure mathematics in the traditional sense. And so most math teachers are uncomfortable with statistics. So we're going to cover this background piece of information before we start getting into these details about what population is, what a sample is, what a characteristic of interest is. And then we're going to talk about different ways to collect data. That's what these bottom objectives are for. Okay? So let's get here started with just a very simple question. I'm going to give you all 3 or 4 minutes to talk about this within your small group. Just come up with a decision of which of these 4 questions doesn't belong. Okay? Now, students get freaked out every time I do this because they're like, what potato chips and bag of chips are you talking about? Well, I forgot to grab a bag of chips, but I had these already here. So instead of chips, we're going to pretend we're talking about these pretzels. Okay? And so question A is, how many pretzels are in this bag? Question B, what is the typical number of pretzels in a bag of pretzels? Question C, what type of pretzels are these? And question D, what types of pretzels do students in this class prefer? Right, so there's 4 questions there. Your job is, as a small group, to come to a consensus about which of those 4 questions does not belong. We'll come back and have a whole class discussion about this soon, but I want you to know, so you have to come to a consensus. Y'all may disagree at first. That's fine. But develop an argument. Make a claim, I think this question doesn't belong, but then also have the evidence for that claim. Here is why I don't believe they belong. But then listen to each other's ideas and come to a decision together. Questions, comments, or concerns? All right, let's take a few minutes. Let's get to work on the conversation.
I'm thinking C.
Yeah, it's either, I'm thinking serious.
I'm thinking C. Yeah. Yeah, but he's like, yeah.
I think
That's a statistic. Statistics are your opinions. It's like the things. Yeah, I bet.
Is there a single number that could represent a typical number of chips or pretzels in the
I'll
bag?
bet for you because it doesn't have multiple.
You can put a range of values, but I will say there is a mathematical idea that I do know you have studied that can tell you a typical number. So if there's a bag of chips, one bag had 20, another bag had 25, another bag had 38, another bag had 28, what could you do to figure out a typical number of chips in those four amount of chips that would be bag?
We have changed that consistency.
Which one? D. Why D?
C, because that's the only one that doesn't have any relationship to blank.
So y'all come up with a decision together. Y'all come to a consensus. Who has the best argument? How's it going over here? Which one? What's your reasoning? When y'all have a good reasoning. I mean, we're gonna have a whole class conversation about it. So tell us that. Y'all got a consensus going? Yes. B as in boy. B and then D. So y'all haven't come to a consensus then? Have y'all had a conversation about why? So they just couldn't agree? Alright. Okay.
And plus we're missing one.
You're not going to ask us, you're not going to table with us.
I heard good conversations already. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Alright, so don't forget, the whole point is, when you raise your hand, that's when you stop talking so we can have a whole class conversation. Again, you're going to have those small group conversations to develop ideas and get those ideas flowing. Jordan, you can put your hand down now. Yeah, once I get started. Is to get those ideas flowing, but then maybe there's something we can learn from other groups, and so we're going to have the whole class conversation. And then when there's other things that we're not quite seeing right away, I might add some stuff in at the end. So, did anybody say question A was not the one, or was the one that didn't belong? That was the one you were thinking? Just Asia? So why were you thinking question A?
Because I guess you can, well, I wouldn't choose to, but you could count how many chips are in a bag of the 10 chips.
So what's the reason that it doesn't fit?
Because you can easily, not easily, but you can make a chart on like the other question, like if somebody, like question D, if like 2 or 3 people say they like potato chips or the other 5 like Doritos or something, you can easily make like a chart out of that in the other questions if you want to.
So you're thinking questions B through D, you could create some kind of graph or chart, but not as easily with A, since there's just going to be one number of pretzels or chips. Okay, so there's some reasoning. Who thought that B did not fit? Jaden?
Oh, because like, I don't know how chips are made. I don't know how chips are put in a bag either. So like, if a guy does it, I don't think he's gonna like count out like all the chips and make it the same number as all the other bags of chips. So I don't know. That's what I just thought.
Okay. C. Anybody thinking C? A lot of people like to think C. Which groups came to a consensus that it was C? So groups 4 and 6. All right. Oh, and 1 came to the conclusion. Okay, so let's start with group 6, and then I'll have the others add in if they have anything else. Why did y'all say C didn't fit in?
Yeah, but absolutely.
We said because it's the only one that doesn't have any relation to numbers or data in general.
It's the only one that doesn't have a relation with numbers. Huh.
And adding on to that, with same thing that Deja said, just the opposite, just with C. Like you can graph A, B, D, and not C though.
Okay. Okay. Question D. Oh, y'all want to add in? Yeah, I'm sorry, my bad. What did you want to add in on that?
Just to piggyback off, but like, for example, here, just if you have to sit there and count and go through them, and then like the typical number, you have to find an average, and then the
Okay, let's pause for a second because I want to bring that up. Group 3, did y'all hear what Grace Ann said about the typical number of chips? What'd she say? Average, right? So please be aware, like if we want a typical number of something, we're talking about an average there. Okay, continue.
And then like D, you would have to ask your peers what they think, and then fan data, but like question C, you just read a label. It's just a question that has a direct answer to it.
Okay. So you don't really have to do work with C is kind of your mindset. All the other ones you have to do some level of work for. Okay? Anybody think that D did not belong? I think that was group 5. Didn't y'all say D didn't belong? What was your reasoning?
It was more like an opinion, like an actual question.
Ah, so that's an opinion-based thing. Okay? Addison?
Because there's only one bag of chips up there. It's not really.
Well, yeah, I guess I will say with D, that would be your opinion, right? So like I would ask each and every one of you what's your favorite bag of chips. But yeah, there's only one up here. Now that would be question C for sure though, right? Logan?
I would say it's D because, I mean, even though the C has a good argument, I'm not gonna lie about that. But D is just like, it's the only one for students.
D is the only one that deals with students. Let me ask you this. Did any of the arguments from other students sound pretty good?
Yes.
Yeah.
I like the D one that
Say again. I did put 4 different types of questions. And depending on how you saw it, there's an argument for each question not belonging to the rest. No. There's not a correct answer here. And this is why I want y'all to learn how to start thinking, right? And Grace, I think Ms. Moore even told you that my class is going to be a thinking class, right? More so than probably most other classes you have. There's not always a right answer. I think some people even made that note in their surveys for this class that they like math a whole lot because there's always a right answer. Not necessarily in my class, because I want you to think more than anything else, okay? So here's the thing. Yeah, each of those in different ways would not belong. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to break down 2 really important ideas in statistics. What makes a statistical question and the types of data possible. Because all of you were hinting at these ideas in different ways. So let's look here, and this is why I have you actually open the M5-63. On the left-hand side there is blank paper. I want you to write some notes here because this is the beginning of mathematical language, or at least statistical language, that we need to be aware of. Okay, so you'll notice, hopefully, that I circled those top 2 questions, questions A and B. We were asking which one doesn't belong earlier, but look at questions A and B. How are those similar to each other? They're asking about a number of chips. Does that make them common?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%, right? So this type of data would be, again, it's called, we're looking at numbers, right? This is called numerical data. You have numerical data when the responses are numbers. That, I'm going to add a little bit more to that because that can get confusing, but numbers that are measured. There's other times when it can be numerical data, but overall, numbers that are measured are what we're looking for when we talk about numerical data. And so in how many potato chips are in this bag, you're counting them, and that's a form of measurement, right? What is the typical number of chips in a bag of chips? You're going to have to look at multiple bags of chips, but then you would count each one of them, and then as group one said, you would average. So if you're looking at measuring things to get a response, you're getting numerical values, you're looking at numerical data. What about questions C and D? What do they have in common?
The type of chips.
It's a type, right? In statistics, when we're talking about a type, we're talking about categories or categorical data. So what do you think the responses fit into? It's called categorical data.
Categories.
That's it, right? Like, mathematicians are not original. A lot of times the word is telling you exactly what it is, right? Categorical data, the responses fit in categories. So I do want to point out one thing because this can get tricky for students. Evan, if I were to ask you what zip code Hillcrest High School is in, I think is it 35401?
Yes.
35405? I don't know.
I thought it
I
was,
think it's 35.
we're to 05.
We're 05, okay. So 35405, right? Would that information be numerical data or categorical data?
Numerical. For the numbers.
It could be
You all sound convinced. Why are you thinking
It
categorical?
could be both.
True. Well, but remember, what I asked was, what zip code is Hillcrest High School in? Raise hand.
You do like categories because like each one's different and so they're just based by numbers, like categorized by numbers.
Are zip codes just categorized by numbers? Alexis? Ah, look at that. They're numbers that are measured.
That's true. It wouldn't be measured.
Just because it's a number does not make it numerical. Is that number a measurement of something,
No.
or is it giving us a category?
Category.
Category, right? If I were to talk about the year that something was built, right? The year that Alexander Graham Bell built the telephone, would that year be a measurement or would it be a category? That would be a category. It is technically a measure. You can think of it as a measurement since 0 AD or whatever, but really that's a category. It's a year that phone was built in.